Hey everyone, and welcome back to my next Big Brother ranking video. And I was sitting around scratching my head, unsure of what I'm gonna rank next. I have a few ideas in the machine that I'm thinking about doing, which I will not disclose because I want it to be a secret for you guys. But I settled on doing this for now, and I think it's pretty interesting. I will be ranking every single runner up from the modern era of Big Brother. So that's basically when they started using their HD cameras. So that's from BB16 to BB26. Now, that is a summary of 11 seasons. However, there is an exception, being Paul. Now, Paul finished in second twice, BB18 and BB19. So the rule that I had was that I'm only purely ranking these finalists in the games that they've played in the season. So some of these finalists made it to the end more than once, i.e. Cody, i.e. Paul, i.e. Tyler. Some of these players made it to the end before. However, I'm going to be purely judging this tier list on the games that they've played in the season that they came in second in. I think this is the most fairest way to go around doing it. And in the case of Paul, I guess by default, I'm going to be ranking his newest game, which is BB19. So BB18 doesn't have a representation, unfortunately, but regardless, I think this. Now, coming in dead last 10th place, I think this one is pretty obvious. But here I have Big D, Derek Frazier, whatever you want to call him, the finalist from BB23. Okay, Big D. So I don't want to take too long when talking about the contestants because I have 10 of them to get through and I don't want this video to be super long. So I'm going to try and keep my reasoning short. Big D, in BB23, he didn't do much, okay? Let's be honest here. Most of the time, he just sat on the couch and voted with the house or be used as a pawn for his alliance. He didn't contribute much to the alliance discussions either. He just kind of was there most of the time. And, Derek Frazier, I don't want to get him mixed to Derek Levasseur, but Derek Frazier, he didn't win any comms in the entire season of BB23. Didn't win a single HOH, not a single veto, nada. So, that's okay. I mean, if your social game is hella good, then you shouldn't need to win comms. But I mean, that's less stuff to add to your resume. But when talking about his social game, he really was not at the top whatsoever. Really, the heads of his alliance were Tiffany, Hannah, even Xavier to some extent. Those were the ones running the cookout. Derek really didn't contribute much to the alliance. He was just an extra vote to them. And he was kind of the last person taken out of that alliance because they knew that he was an easy person to beat in the end. So Derek, yeah, he didn't do much. He just got carried by the Cookout Alliance, which was the majority alliance in his season with all of the non-white players. And also, he didn't do great in comps, and he also just didn't have a good social game. So really, there was not anything really that great to say about Derek's game. And so this is why I'm putting him in last place. Sorry, not sorry. Now it is time to move on to the player in ninth place. So coming into ninth place, apart from Derek F., I want to say that every other person who came in second had something to, kind of build off of their resume when it came to their games and their finale speeches. However, with all that being said, ninth place is Enzo Palumbo, BB22. Enzo had a pretty big issue with his game. The one thing is the fact that he was too loyal to Cody. There were many times in the season where Enzo could have took charge and flipped the game to benefit him and not Cody. I mean, it's good to be loyal to your allies. but not to the point where you would literally hand them the money, right? If you're in a situation where you have to cut your ally or you're going home at some point, then you gotta do it. Enzo, if his alliance with Cody was sinking, he would go down with that ship. He wouldn't abort, which is his main issue. Now, I can name a couple scenarios where he could have flipped this season. I could name a couple scenarios where anybody could flip in this season, but this is not a BB22 rant. Enzo specifically, he could have helped out Kaser when he was about to be evicted. Kaser tried blowing up the house on Cody and Nicole and Danny, but Enzo didn't budge. And the next time, which was really close to actually happening, was during the triple eviction when Nicole could have been cut instead of David. Enzo was the deciding vote. That could have been where the game shooken things up. But no, he stuck with Cody to his hip, and that was his downfall. Was the fact that I feel like that moment in the triple eviction, had he stuck with Tyler and Christmas and voted out Nicole instead of David, things might have been different, and we possibly could have had Enzo as the winner. I mean, Tyler probably would have had a pretty good chance of winning if that happened, but if not, Enzo I feel like would have been a good candidate. Other than that, good things about Enzo's game was that at least he won stuff. Unlike Derek F, he actually won competitions. He won, I think, was 2 HOHs. So, that was a thing, but the issue with that was the fact that his HOHs were almost like a Cody HOH. So really, did you win HOH or did you win your buddy in HOH? I don't know. Enzo was someone who I really liked as a person on this season, but a good cast member doesn't mean a good game player, and thus why I think Enzo comes short in 9th place. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to the contestant in 8th place. So coming in 8th place, I don't know, this one might be a little bit low considering how the last winner ranking went on my video, on my channel. But it's Holly Allen from BB21. So now, without mentioning the negative stigma about this season, Holly wasn't actually a part of it. I don't think she was. Like I said, BB21 for me personally is a blur. I've watched it once in its entirety, and it was when it first released. So it's been a while since I know like the nitty gritty details, but I know that Holly wasn't that great of a player. I mean, she did some things right, like at the very end when she convinced Nicole and Cliff to target Tommy and not her, because they could have easily taken Holly out of the game, and then Jackson right after. But they decided to, go for Tommy instead of Holly. So the fact that she managed to sway their opinions to keep a duo in the game of all choices, I mean, hey, keeping a duo in the game is a ballsy move. Like, you're facing against almost all odds. You and your partner better win that HOH, or else, you're getting cut. One of you two. Bad things about her game, I don't think that she had a massive influence on the game's, like, the pulse of the house. And her reads on the game were a little bit off. But, like I said, it's very hard to judge Holly's game, at least for me, seeming that I haven't watched BB21 in forever. So, for Holly, I'm going to say that she's going to come in 8th place. It's not too low, but it's not the highest. I just have a better understanding of the other contestants on this list. But from what I do know about Holly is that she didn't do the best. Like I said, the fact that she managed to sway Nicole and Cliff's alliance to go against Tommy instead of her and Jackson, that's a big plus. And she did win some things. She didn't win a lot of comps, but she won enough to where you can say that she won competitions. So, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I wouldn't say Holly is a super good player, but I would say that she's a decent player. She won 2 HOHs, and she won, I don't think she won a veto. I might be wrong, but I don't think Holly had ever won a veto. But she won two HOHs, so I will give her that. And she did, unlike Enzo and Cody, she did try and differentiate her game from Jackson. She wasn't playing Jackson's game, she was playing her own game, and Jackson just so happened to benefit her game, so that's why she was so close to him. So that's another differentiation between her and Enzo. And also, I think 8th place is just a solid place to put her. So, now, it is time to move on to 7th place. So now we have 7th place. So I think starting from 7th place and going all the way to number 1, these players kind of are in the same boat to where they have quite a bit going on for their game, but not enough to actually win the game. So coming in 7th place, I have Mackenzie Manbeck, the runner-up of the most recent season of Big Brother, BB26. Now, Mackenzie, she played in decent game. I will say one thing right off the bat. She was a killer at the competitions. I think Mackenzie did an excellent job being able to keep herself in the game. There were 2 times where if she hadn't won the BBAI Arena, which was the twist for this season, then she would have definitely went home, and things would have probably been very, very different than from the outcome that actually did happen. So basically, I think that she played a bad game at the beginning. I think the fact that she was constantly nominated at the beginning of the game and constantly seen as just a physical threat and a D athlete and all this kind of stuff that made her an easy target for those major alliances at the beginning. The reason why she got to the end was because she was able to win and, solidify her safety took for the weeks to come. The reason why she's not higher is because I think that her social game needed work. She was really close to Leah. That could have been easily her final 2. However, she decided to backstab Leah, not for her own benefit, but for Chelsea's benefit. And I think had Mackenzie played this game more as an individual and not to direct her moves for Chelsea's benefit, I think she probably could be higher on this list. But, there's many things that Mackenzie did in this game that were questionable. I think the fact that she didn't decide to use the veto in the final 5 was a bad thing. I mean, if she really wanted to advocate for her playing an individual game, she would have used that veto on either Kimo or Rubina and put up Cam or Chelsea as the replacement. Because at that point, it didn't matter who Chelsea would have voted for, Mackenzie would be the tiebreaker and she could have sent Cam right out the door. So, the thing is, she played a very mediocre game. I think Mackenzie had some holes in her game, quite a few of them if I'm being honest, but she was a very good comp beast. She was also good at reading the house and, determining who would have been the real target every week. She never voted with the minority, to my knowledge, minus week 1 when she voted out Kenny instead of Matt. But that was because Matt was her number 1 ally at the time, so of course she's not going to vote him out week 1. Other than that, though, she constantly voted with the house, and she was in okay strategist. I think that was the one bit where she was lacking, was she had good reads on the house, but she wasn't a good strategist when it came to playing her individual game. Now, it is time that we move on to 6th place. So the player that I'm going to be placing in 6th place is the runner-up from the first ever HD BBUS season, BB16, which is Cody Calafiore. So, without BB22 in mind, we're purely judging him on BB16. And I think that the fact that Cody was a lot younger on this season definitely factored in on some of his moves. So, I think Cody and Mackenzie shared a lot of their games, actually. I think Mackenzie and Cody both had the fact that they were too loyal to their final 2 companion, while also being very good competition beasts. Chelsea won quite a bit of competitions, but Mackenzie, I think, won slightly more competitions. And Derek didn't win nearly as many competitions as Cody did in the season. So they're both the compiest of their duos. And I think the fact that Cody slightly edges out Mackenzie, and I'm gonna tell you why. There was never legitimately a situation where Cody was gonna go home. He was put on the block twice in the entire season, and only once was it a real eviction, and that one time was against Zach Rance, which everyone in the house were ready to get rid of. Nobody wanted Zach in the house because he caused too much drama. So, enough with the general stuff. I'm gonna dig into Cody personally. I think Cody, his biggest downfall is the same thing as Mackenzie, the fact that he was way too loyal in the end. I think Cody was in the right position to cut Derek at the end. If he took the final jab and decided to vote out Derek, maybe he would have lost Derek's vote. But he would have gained the majority of the jury's votes, and literally almost anyone, minus maybe Devin, would have won against Victoria. So, and even then, I think Derek would have had, not Derek, I think Devin would have had an argument. But that's besides the point. Cody, he played really good when it came to the social aspect of the game. He was forming a lot of close bonds with people in the house. Very similar to Derek, but Derek acted very low-key. Cody was very much the one that was out there and making those relationships with the people in the house, namely the women in the house, but that's besides the point. I think Cody played a decent game. I think people are shitting on Cody a little bit too much on this season. Yes, he was too loyal. Yes, he made a stupid move. But that doesn't really discredit his game before that point. Cody, like I said, was never in a position where he was going to go home. Cody also won a number of competitions. He also sometimes didn't even vote with Derek. He sometimes, he had trouble differentiating himself, and that was what costed him in the end. However, I would never in a million years say that Cody in BB16 played a bad quote-unquote game. But that's just my opinion. Now it is time that we move on to the top 5 runner-ups. So sliding into the 5th position, we have Liz Nolan from BB17. Now, okay, I know this might be a little bit high from what you guys expect, but I'm gonna try my best to articulate my point. So, Liz, from the beginning of the game, had a pretty big knock to her game with the fact that she had a twin in the house, okay? I think the fact that, she actively had a family member with her in the game was a wake-up call to almost all the house guests. They were constantly talking about targeting the twins. We should target the twins, but nobody actually took the stab at them because they had this barrier around them. Since they had Liz, they had Julia, and they had Austin. Those 3. So if they took a stab at one of them, the other 2 would definitely go towards voting out whoever took the shot, and they were too scared to make it because they were facing one. It's basically a 1 versus 3. So either way, she kind of was situated in a position where she was covered on all fronts. She had Julia, her twin sister, that was loyal to her till the very end, literally her blood sister. She had Austin, which had a major crush on her towards the entire season. She had Vanessa, which at the time they were very, very, very close. And Vanessa was working behind the scenes, manipulating the bonds with people in the house. Namely Jackie, namely James, namely almost all of the goblins, Steve, Johnny Mac even. She was the one going behind the scenes and putting in the work. But Liz specifically was the one who was covered by Vanessa's sort of acts in the game. So the fact that Liz had that barrier around her where she never was in a real situation where she would have been voted out, and not to mention, she won a decent amount of comps. She won a few HOHs, and I'm pretty sure she won 1 veto. I can't think of it at the top of my head, but I think she won a veto. So she was a really good competition threat in the house. She was really well situated with people. She was really close with Steve. She was really close with Johnny Mac. Johnny Mac not so much actually, but she was really close with Steve as well, who ended up, taking her to the end. So that's just a testament to the bond that they had. You could say that Steve wanted to take out Vanessa, which he did, and it honestly was the right move to take out Vanessa over Liz. I think if Liz was taken out instead of Vanessa, Steve would have easily lost to almost a unanimous vote from the jury. But the fact that he took Liz, I think that it's also a testament to, like I said, the bond that they had almost the entire season. Liz was constantly helping out Steve and, comforting him for being this kind of outsider nerd type person and not necessarily fitting in with the structure and dynamic of the house. So I think Liz played a really good social game. She played a really good competition game, and she also was really good when it came to being situated in her alliance. But the knock that I'm gonna do about Lizzie's game is that she did not perform well individually. When the shot was finally taken to that three-person alliance, she just crumbled. She went from being really good in the house, winning a bunch of competitions, being good with everybody, to when Julia was evicted, everything went downhill for Liz. She didn't really win too much, and she was just kind of having a breakdown. She never really recovered from it 100%, and it just didn't help her in the long run. So at the end of the day, I think Liz played a decent game, and I don't know, I think she deserves the 5th position. It's not too high, but it's in the middle of the list to where it's enough to recognize her game as a decent game. Now it's time that we move on to the person in 4th place. So coming in the 4th position, this one I think is going to be pretty quick. We have Matt Klotz from BB25. So, okay, without mentioning who he is as a person, and we're strictly talking about the game, I think Matt was a really good person at the beginning. He had that very close bond with Cirie. He had that big majority alliance. He started forming bonds with Jag, and he basically was good with everyone. And he wasn't nominated up until the final 4. So Matt was never in a position where he was the main target to go home. When they were talking about the Minutemen, they always wanted Jag to go before Matt. And I think that's a testament to those bonds that he made early on, was because they liked Matt. They wanted Matt to stay in the game. And that's something that's really good. If you make those early bonds and those friends earlier on, they're going to want to keep you when it comes to the end game. So the fact that he was in a pretty obvious Minuteman alliance with Jag, but whenever they talked about the Minutemen, they always wanted Jag's head and not Matt's. So the fact that he always had that shield, if for whatever reason Cirie, Felicia, or America won the HOH, he wasn't the main target to go home. So he had kind of this safety net whenever he was in danger. Also, he won a good number of competitions, vetoes, and HOHs. And overall, he just played a very decent game, stayed loyal, and wasn't nominated a whole bunch, won a lot of competitions. In summary, he was personally my preference to win the game. I think that Matt would have been a better winner than Jag had he actually won the game. But yeah, not much more I can say about Matt. He had really good bonds and played a decent game. So with that out of the way, let's go on to number 3. Alright, so now we're rounding off the top 3 contestants. So in this top 3, I think it's very solid, first of all, and I also think that any one of these top 3 people that I have could potentially be viewed as the best runner-up. With that all being said, I decided to put in 3rd place Monte Taylor, the runner-up of BB24. So I think Monte played a phenomenal game. I think his close bonds with a lot of the black people in the house, and also just the fact that he connected with a lot of the people just generally in the house. He resonated with Taylor's story. He resonated with a lot of people, and he rubbed a lot of people in the right way to where he they wanted to keep him basically. And to couple with that, Monte won quite a bit of challenges, not as many as like Michael per se, but he won still, a decent amount, enough to where I could say, he won a appropriate amount of competitions to be viewed as a potential winner of the game. I think the fact that he took Taylor over Turner at the end is also a really good move. Even though it ended up costing him in the end, I mean, I think if he took Turner, he probably would have won, right? I think Monte could have won against Turner, but against Taylor, it was a losing game. So actually, now I think about it, it probably is a knock to his game more than anything, but that's just a testament to his loyalty to Taylor, I mean. The fact that late in the game that they decided to work together and, kind of be two black people in the end again, since it happened in BB23 and they wanted it to repeat history, it happened. Other than that, Monte was a really nice guy and played the game really hard, and also just in general was a very entertaining figure when it came to his strategic elements and his alliances and just his bonds in general. He was really good at keeping, the people he was close with in the house and getting his targets right out the house. Like how he got Michael out in double eviction. That was a big move for him and Turner. Because Michael was a big competition threat at the time, and once Michael was gone, Turner and Monte kind of, owned the house after when it came to the competitions. So yeah, like, I don't have much bad things to say about Monte's game. Like I said, the only bad thing I would say is the fact that he decided to take Taylor to the end, and I think that's what makes him third place more than second or first, was the fact that he made a easy slip-up move that could have costed him, which did cost him actually $750,000. But yeah, other than that, I think Monte played a very, very solid game. Now it is time that we move on to the top 2 players. I had a really, really, really hard time picking who I wanted to come in second and who I was deciding to come in first. This was a really, really, really close one. But at the end of the day, I am going to be putting Paul Abrahamian from BB19 in second place. Okay, same thing with Matt. Say what you want about Paul as a person. I think it's important to differentiate Paul as a person and Paul as a player. If we were to talk strictly about Paul's game in BB19, phenomenal job, okay? I think Paul, personally, I mean, some people are big Josh defenders, but me personally, I think Paul should have won BB19. So, the fact that Paul orchestrated every duo in the house, Matt and Raven, there was Mark and Elena, Jessica and Cody, there was Josh and Christmas, there was Alex and Jason, all of these duos in the house. He played them all. He made them think that he was the biggest ally of their trio. He was in a trio with every single duo, and he made sure that within that trio, that both people would take him over their other duo partner. Okay, maybe other than Cody and Jessica, since those were Paul's biggest adversaries in the house. But other than those two, which they left pretty early on in the game, one of them was a pre-juror and the other one was the first juror. So at that point, it's like, it was Paul's game to lose. He managed the game very, very well. Everything he wanted to happen happened. There wasn't a single time, okay, maybe once or twice, that things happened where it didn't go in Paul's favor. But even then, he recovered like it was nothing. Okay? Not to mention that in this season specifically, he was never nominated, unless you count like in the finale when Josh won the HOH, then he was an auto nominee with Christmas. But other than that, he was never nominated. And he just played a really good game. Like, he didn't win that many competitions, but he didn't need to. He was the puppet master pulling all the strings, and that's what really got him to the end and almost the win. Now, this is the biggest differentiation. I think Paul could have done better to the house guests that were going out of the house. Had he apologized in his goodbye messages? Had he managed his words better against Cody and Jessica? Had he done a couple of things better, I think we could have very well saw Paul win this season. But because of those knocks, the jury ended up being a little bit bitter towards him. And that's what ended up making him lose the game in the end, was the fact that he couldn't sway one more jury vote. And he could have easily swayed one of those votes. He could have easily done that. But it did not work. And that's the reason why I have to put him in second, was because he played a near flawless game, minus the end and minus when it came to his goodbye messages and managing bitter juries. So he had terrible jury management, but when it came to playing the actual game, he did really good, which is what gets him in second place. Okay, if you know from the people I've already ranked, you're gonna know who's coming up, and let's get to him. Alright, I'll try and keep this short since I don't want this video to be any longer than it already is. It's already gone for well over 20 minutes, so I'm going to try and keep this short. It's Tyler Crispin from BB20. Tyler Crispin played the best game that you can imagine, okay? Tyler went behind the scenes, basically was the Derek of his season. The Steve blindside as literally the very first eviction. He was the one who orchestrated that. He had the alliance that contributed to half of the house, and then the other half of the house. But he was the one who flipped the one person from the other side to his side, which ended up getting Steve out of the house. Tyler was a master manipulator. He got nominated a few times. He got nominated by the hacker, and he got nominated in the Final Four. Other than that, I don't think he got nominated in BB20. He won a decent amount of competitions. He was very good when it came to that. Also, just in general, I think that Tyler played a really, really good game socially. When it came to his alliance, he was really good with Casey. That was one of his main final twos. And he just played the game really well. Like I said, I'm trying to keep this really short because this video is already very long. But I think Tyler is very deserving of this #1 spot. He just played a phenomenal game. And he basically did what Paul did, but better. I think that Tyler is just a better Paul when it comes to this situation. And overall, I wish Tyler won BB20. I'm gonna say it. I wish Tyler won BB20. No shade to Casey. I think Casey is a great winner. But I think Tyler would have been a way better representative for BB20. And so that is why I believe Tyler is the best Big Brother US runner-up. So there you have it. My thoughts and opinions on the 10 Big Brother US runner-ups from the modern era. So BB16 to BB26. I really hope you guys enjoyed my ranking. If you did, I remember you guys to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to this channel if you want to see more videos like these. Let me know in the comments down below who your favorite runner-up is from the Big Brother series, and who's your least favorite runner-up from the Big Brother series. With all that said, I'm Fern, signing off. Have a good day, everyone.